subjects of a wide range over the whole gamut of web-related things. And there are going to be things that are going to really be helpful for you in particular. We have a lot of different business types that might be joining us today. Some that are specifically just bird control companies, some that are pest control companies that want to add bird control work. There's a lot of different strategies to the overall. Some people may not even have a website and they need to start from scratch. So, make sure you can take some good notes. There's going to be some nice information covered here today. Our goal with today's webcast is, of course, like any other strategy that we have for the actual content of what we do here, is with Bird Barrier, we want to teach everyone out there how to sell and execute the most innovative, cost-effective bird control solutions. And one of the things that involves the web work is doing what already works, all right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel just because it's bird control. So without further ado, I'm going to now introduce our special guest, Suzette. Suzette's going to be joining us actually all the way from Canada today, and she is going to talk about who she is and what she does. Go ahead, Suzette.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you virtually here today. Yes, I've been in the web development space for about 20 years, starting in year 2000. So it's over that. Starting with just building websites. At that time, that's almost all you had to do in order to rank. But over time, of course, it became more competitive. So then you had to get into SEO and social media and video, etc. So as the industry grew, then so did our services. And now we offer everything digital, anything that's has to do with online marketing, we do. So, and
all right.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks again for being here for this particular group. One thing that I will mention is Suzette does have some basic understanding of bird control with other customers that she's involved with, of course. And so this gives us an opportunity to talk to a professional who understands the big picture as opposed to getting into all the nuances and detail. That will come later. But for now, one of the things that involves the website is with search engine optimization. So I think we're going to start with SEO, search engine optimization, as far as that being the category. And why don't you touch on that just a little bit as to how that strategy works in the way that you can help people with the search engine optimization?
Sure. Well, search engine optimization is a big deal these days. Everybody wants to be on page one of Google, right? Because that's where most of the clicks happen when your potential customers go looking for you on Google. And so it is a big deal, and it is a lot of work too. Not only is it really important, but it's also a lot of work. It involves a lot of moving parts, from on-page search engine optimization, so things you actually do right on your website, and then off-page search engine optimization, which are things that happen off your website. So links to your website from other websites, social media, citations, which are instances of your company's name, address, and phone number on like directory sites, for instance, like Yelp and things like that. So there's a lot of things, and it seems like as time goes on, more and more, you have to have more and more things happening on your website and off your website in order to compete favorably with everybody else. So, but it depends on what industry it is too. Some industries are maybe less savvy about those sorts of things than others, so your competition isn't as hefty. So you have a good chance of ranking better than most in your industry, say. But there's a lot that goes to it.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'm going to back up a step here, and what I want to do is actually ask the crowd that's on here today. I'm going to ask a question for you to type into the chat box, and this is totally okay if you do not even have a website, or maybe you're in the world of pest control, but you're going into the world of bird control. And so therefore you've joined today to learn how to get off the ground with a website. So first I want to ask, how many people out there have no website and they're joining us today to get some basics to know even where to start? And if you do have a website, your plan here today is to improve your bird control efforts on your website. So if you can just each type into the chat box, let us know. And while we're gathering that information, I'm going to actually, we'll check back on this chat box as we go, and we'll get a gauge of, how to shape this as we go. But I'm going to go to the slides and talk about one key question that we get a lot here. Through all this training that I do, I get a lot of questions about from companies that do not have a website at all. So when people don't have a website and they're not sure even which direction to go, they may actually want to build their own website. So professional website versus a self-made website. Can we talk about that for a minute? Why is it so critical that you actually have a professional company do your website and the design and all the strategy that goes with it?
Well, if we dig deep on why it's important, to me, it comes down to competition. So if your competition it has a better website, more professional looking, then your possible customers are going to see the difference. And you know yourself, when you go searching online and you see a really great website against one that maybe looks like it's 90s style, you're going to choose the one that looks more professional because it's a first impression, just like as if you were first impression with face-to-face kind of a situation.
I see.
Yeah, it's first impression is a big thing, and it comes down to competition. So
Okay, well, that's a good point because in the world of bird control, and if any of you have taken our full certification, one of the modules is our sales class. And in the sales class, I talk about the fact that in the world of bird control, there are so many companies that are not professional, and that half of the bird jobs that you have an opportunity to solve are a result of a previous failed attempt, either by the customer or possibly another professional. And so, the point of this is that there's a lot of doubt of professionalism when it comes to bird control. People like to experiment on their customers and they use gadgets that they can just buy online without any solid basis for what they're doing. Now, most of the people that are coming through our training are becoming certified. But I would say, in context to what you just said, having your website make it look like you are up at the highest levels of the competition, even if you're just getting started, is going to make a huge difference for your ability to gain customers. Is that fair to say?
totally, it's exactly it. And sales comes down to I like to use the term, it's not mine that I've figured out, but it's know, like, and trust. So your website wants to instill those in your prospects as soon as possible, and so your website is your first
Yeah, first impression. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the chat box here and just see some of the answers that came in. No website for me. Looking to grow and improve our current website, looking to optimize the website. Um, just starting business starting out in Patagonia. So we got people from all over the place, but good. This is good. So we're going to cover a wide range of things here. So now we understand we need to do a really good website. Let's take a look at the next topic here in our slides. Give us just a second here because we're doing this webcast. Since we're sharing the screen with Suzette today, we have a little bit more technical challenges, but we covered that professional. Now, one of the questions that comes up in terms of designing the website, people are lost as to how critical keywords are. Well, why don't you explain, first of all, what keywords are themselves in terms of the website, and then we go about which particular words should be put into a website unique to bird control.
Sure. Well, keywords, for those that don't know yet, are the words that your prospects will be typing into a search engine like Google to find what you have to offer. So it might be bird control, it might be, any number of words that describe what you are offering. But there are good keywords and not so great keywords to keep in mind that you want to optimize for. The ideal ones are buyer keywords. So for instance, if someone's just looking up for bird control products, maybe they're just looking to buy something that they can take care of the situation on their own. But someone that types in bird control services, okay, they're looking for someone to hire. Now that's a really great keyword for you. So, and I can give you a really neat little trick to find what people are searching for. There are services out there, and we subscribe to some major tools and things to do that ourselves. But there's a neat little trick that's easy for anyone to do that can help. So what you would do is go to Google, and in the search bar type in bird control or whatever term is that you feel you want to test for, and then Google will do what they call an auto suggest. So there will be a drop down that happens, and you'll see several words show up, several terms, multi-word terms. And those are the ones that people are actually typing in. So then you go through them and you see, okay, is that a buyer keyword? Is that a buyer keyword? Is that not? And you can get some good ones from that. So then you want to make sure you have those on your website. You don't want to go overboard with them because there's such a thing called keyword stuffing that Google will penalize you for. So there's a balance between how many you put into your website and what kind. And then there's keywords that are relative to your main keywords. They're called LSI keywords. So they're similar to your main keywords and refer to the same thing but in a different way. So you want to have those as well. And then you want to use those keywords for your off-site search engine optimization, where your business will appear on other websites, and you want to have those keywords there with the link attached to your website to those keywords. So as I say, there's lots involved with every aspect of SEO, and keywords is definitely another one, a big important element in it.
Right, and you hit on something that I see is a common mistake, and that is not understanding that the service of bird control is about really you providing those services rather than just the solution. And that's a big keyword search factor because, a company like ours that provides the devices, that's a complete different strategy than the installer needs to have included in. Now, with that in mind, now the next subject here is about gathering relevant content that goes in. And I'm wondering if you can explain how the keywords themselves can actually fold in more naturally and perhaps not get the red flag from Google by doing the stuffing that you mentioned. In other words, the keywords are included organically in the conversation of the content itself. Is that better to strategize that way?
Much better. That's the ideal. I mean, you put keywords ideally in titles on your website and maybe even in the URL, your website address sometimes, or in the extensions for sub pages. You could have keywords there. But for the regular content, Google likes to see lots of content, by the way. That's something to keep in mind. It used to be about 300 words per page were good. Nowadays, it's like 700 to 900. So it likes to see lots of relevant content. And that gives you lots of room to sprinkle in your keywords, but you do want to make it sure that the text is human friendly, not just Google bot friendly. So it has to be easy to read for people too. And you like to keep it to a low education level of understanding. Google likes, they give points for that too, to make sure everybody could understand. You don't want to get too technical.
I see. And then as far as the content being a big source and in terms of gathering customers, here's a question I have is in terms of that content, A lot of people will shape it into more of a sales pitch about themselves and the unique traits that they have in their business model. Of course, those benefit the customer. But rather than do that, it seems like a website that's more informative and a lot more empathetic to the customer showing up there to gather some good, solid information is more critical. So, how do we balance the content of selling versus just informing helpfully? Is that how critical is that?
Well, I think that's really critical because we're back to the know, like, and trust uh, thing. So when your customers or potential customers come to your website, that you want to get to the know, like, and trust thing as soon as possible. So if you're just going on about how great you are and how great your services are and how long you've been doing all this stuff, I mean, that's important too, but that kind of stuff could go on like an about us page, typically. On the home page, which is the first thing that they're hit with, it's better to think about, okay, what's in it for me? Put your headspace into your customer's mind and okay, what is it that benefits me here? Why would I choose this? What's in it for me? How is it going to serve me? How is it going to solve my problem? So you want to write as if you're talking to someone, very conversational, and with asking them and telling them and showing them how this would benefit them.
That's a great way to describe it, and it reminds me of I was at a trade show in Las Vegas,
Mm.
and there were three different pest control companies that were interested in starting more of their bird work, and so that we were having great conversations. But as pest control providers, they all their company names and their business cards were very similar. They all seemed to provide the same kind of services. So I asked them a key question, and that this is a key question that I think comes from the customer viewpoint. I asked each one of them to tell me why a company should use them versus the other two in a
Right.
shortest way possible. Like, to explain it in a very brief couple of sentences. What makes you unique compared to the others? So the content, I think, needs to follow that. And I think in the about section that you mentioned, what a great way to kind of describe what your unique angle is and how that is a benefit of the customer. But differentiation is really critical with content, isn't it?
I think so. If you want to stand out, which is the idea, against your competitors, it's okay. Well, why would I choose you? What is your main difference? The big deal about you. That why would I choose your company over the competition, for instance? So you kind of think about what yours is, and then talk about it and show examples of it, and maybe give testimonials. It's customers that have experienced that with you.
Right. Yeah, people ask me when I first started in this world of bird control, and I said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, I had to come up with the shortest answer. Well, we help protect the world from damage, danger, and disease caused by birds. And that always leads to another conversation. Well, what makes your company unique compared to your competition? Well, we have the most advanced training and support beyond our devices of any other company. Now, I could say that very easily and confidently because I know that's exactly what we do. And I'm proud to be on this webcast today as a glaring example of what I'm practicing what I preach. So that's a big part of the website. You have to realize that the website speaks in your absence, and you want it to really say something that matters to the customer, right?
Yes, and in a lot of times that your website is their first introduction to you. They're kind of your unpaid salesperson.
Yeah,
So you want to make sure that what's on there is something that a great salesperson would have on there to develop that know, like, and trust thing as soon as
very good.
possible.
Yeah. Okay, let's the next subject that ties into this within the content, there will be links. Oops, I jumped ahead. Zach is helping me here. And I'm going crazy with the advancer, but Zach is helping us. and I jumped the gun. Links that matter. So obviously, putting live links on your page can be helpful to the end customer. But the point of those links are to create threads that span through the search engines and help redirect things to your website as well as redirect outwardly in a helpful way to the customer. So, what about, let's talk about that for just a second in terms of improve, like a lot of people today want to improve their SEO. Will links help improve their SEO? What is the point of having links on a website that go external?
It goes, Google uses those as like authority connections. So sometimes, like as an example, one of the great outbound links that you can put on your website is to Wikipedia. If you don't know what Wikipedia is, you just do a Google search or just go wikipedia.com. It's a site that has everything on it. And if you go to Wikipedia and type in bird control, I bet you'll come up with a page or something. So what you would do is take a link that from a page that has something about what you're doing, take that link and put it on your website someplace mixed in with some text and content. So it could be, you would take a word like bird control, for instance, just an example. You might want to use a similar word phrase, and then turn those words into a hyperlink if you know how to do that on a website, and to the Wikipedia page. So it's kind of an authority thing that connects. Okay, this is something that's important and well known and relevant. This page is relevant. So outward links are good. Wikipedia, other websites in the industry that are known by Google to be a big deal, very important, very well known and accepted. Those are great outbound links as well. But the biggest deal with links aren't necessarily just those outbound ones, although they do definitely help with a search engine optimization. The biggest one for SEO in my mind are backlinks, a quality backlink. So those are links that are on other people's websites pointing to yours. So if you can get a link to your website on, again, a website that Google considers very important and very relevant and well liked and popular, it's all about popular with Google, then that's a quality backlink for you. And some SEO people will actually build a whole network of other websites and get them ranked as authority and then put their own links on those sites that they've built themselves. It's a tricky thing to do. It's not black hat, it's all white hat, but it's a lot of work, but it does work really, really well. Sometimes local businesses, local websites don't really need to go that far if they don't have a lot of competition in the industry like you guys. In your towns where you're operating, you probably have, I don't know, what would be 5 or 6 other bird control companies, if that.
Oh yeah.
So you probably wouldn't go to that extent, but that's just another linking thing. Also citations I mentioned earlier, where you've got your website mentioned on directory websites like Yellow Pages, like Yelp, like industry ones too. Sometimes there are industry directory websites that are just for your industry sometimes. I don't know if there are any for bird control, but that's something worth looking up. And also linking back to the website again, it's also linking within your site. Google's bots, they don't see your website. They have to follow links that you've got built into your website. So when we build a search engine optimized website, which all of ours are, we build SEO in them from scratch. There's an order of where the links are linked to, the pages are linked to kind of in a chain. So Google's bots can follow them logically and gets a better, very fast idea of what your site is about. So internal links are important as well. And then of course there's links from social media, there's links from YouTube, there's all kinds of links that the more the better.
Right. Well, it's ironic that you mentioned Wikipedia because, perhaps Birdberry needs to have our links. And the reason is that if you go into the subject of bird control, Birdberry is the one company that's mentioned by Wikipedia as a source. So we have, it's even
Great.
more critical that we should take advantage of that. But I didn't really think of how good Wikipedia is, because it's kind of this neutral source that, in other words, it's not biased towards business, it's biased towards what would be factual, helpful, encyclopedic information about a subject. So that's cool. That's good advice. Now, in our Zach's pointing to our chat box here. Why don't I show up when I ask about bird services near me? Well, yeah, that has everything to do with the whole heart of what we're talking about here today.
Yes.
When we get to the end of this, I think what, we're going to obviously, we're going to give Suzette's information, and you guys can have more specific conversations about your unique business and how she can help you answer a question like that, because it's going to be vary from town to town. That's why, like, when I travel all over the country, all over the world, and I have a personal phone, and I've noticed that when I do searches on my personal phone for companies like yours, like Chris, let's just say I'm in your town and I'm going to do the search to see what organically comes up, because my work phone that I carry with me is influenced by all the connections that I make within the industry. So I have to have this other phone that doesn't know, you know, that I do this kind of work. So I get a better neutral look. But the point is that by going in and analyzing that part of your business is what you want to do after today. We got to get to the heart of why a company is not showing up, even with all the keywords in place. Now, one thing I know, it takes time. Some people are surprised. They think they put their website up and then the next day it's going to show up. Well, it's not that easy. I always
I get that a
compare,
lot.
I compare it to a plant. I compare it to a plant. Like when you transplant something new, the roots haven't even set in, and these roots have to dig in and go deep. And then when the roots are starting to establish, then you start to see some real traction. And the nice thing is, roots just seem to keep getting deeper and deeper. I just saw a video on our YouTube channel that, first few years it only had, several thousand views, and now it's got 117,000 views. The only factor was time. Nothing changed except for time. So it takes time, and we'll have to look at Chris's situation, in terms of that. One other thing that you mentioned, Suzette, you mentioned video and social media. Well, that's the next category that I wanted to mention. I'm going to show you the group here a quick sample of a company that, basically they created a video that they could put up on YouTube. Let's show a little section of this. I'm
Mhm.
going to push play for a second. Here it comes. So they created this video using samples from a job, and they asked for our help to supply some things for the video. And basically, I'm not going to play the whole video, but you get the idea. This is a homemade video, nothing fancy. They use optical gel on tennis courts, and it was a complete success. And they go into detail with that. So I'm going to just cut that off there. I don't want to play the whole video. You could go on YouTube and find that. And that's the point. The point is that video is on YouTube and it redirects to their website. Now, how important is it in the world? Well, I know personally in the world of bird control, customers want to see your work. They want to see pictures of your work. They want to see videos even more. They want to see how the job is going to be solved because they're very skeptical. So let's talk about how the videos shape into this, how important it is to have videos and social media all working together to redirect to your website.
Yeah, video is great. I mean, it's everything these days. Everybody's going to video. It's so easy to watch them now, even on your phones. And people just love watching videos, as can be evidenced by how many people are watching on YouTube every minute. It's just crazy. But yeah, people want to see what you're doing in it, and it's not just bird control industry. It's pretty much any industry, especially service industry. We like to have a video for our clients right on their homepage of their website, and it gives people a visual. It gives them a way of kind of putting their own situation, seeing their own situation resolved, like the one in the video. So it's a huge help. And with Google having purchased, Google owns YouTube as of 2006. So YouTube is Google's baby brother. And getting back to the SEO reason for doing video, you can rank videos on YouTube faster than you can rank a website. We talked about, Michael mentioned that it takes time to rank a website using SEO, but videos can be ranked faster, and they can show up in page one of search results if they're optimized properly. But and in the description of your YouTube video, of course, like Michael says, you can have a link back to your website, driving traffic to your website from there. So you get a great ranking video with a link back to your website, and there's some magic traffic that happens for you right there.
Right. Very, very good. And one thing I should note about that little video clip that I showed, that guy actually made the video using his iPhone on
Sure.
iMovie, right? So he had photos, he had video. I
Yep.
sent them some clips, and then they've got great templates. You know, if you have an
Oh,
Apple, if you have an iPhone, they're so good for creating these videos and then straight up to YouTube. I'm sure on other phones as well now. It's, you know, there's more and more software that's being designed. But the point is that you don't have to have a big video production team, especially
no.
when it comes to bird control. Customers just want to see firsthand to get a kind of a visual reference about what this bird control is about, so they aren't so confused by everything. And showing, you know, obviously doing a really professional video. I've seen some amazing production of companies that have sent us links, and they actually link to our websites, you know, which is part of the backlinking and things like that you talked about. But I think you know, we've covered a decent amount of content here to get
Can I
started.
just add one more thing to that, Michael, before we move
Sure.
on? That I
Yeah.
also wanted to get in there. Yeah, well, a couple things. Video, a professional video is great, but you know what? With an industry like this and with most, you don't really need a hugely expensive video. And a lot of people think, well, if I have to do video, it's going to cost me 10 grand, 5 grand. And not so. Like Michael says, you can do it right on your phone, and it's more personable. It's more, it's not put offish. Like, it's not looking like, you know, you're going to be a very expensive proposition to do business with you. This is a nice casual kind of video, and people love those. And the other point I wanted to make was that if you have a video on your website, we encourage doing that because people watch the video, which keeps them on your website longer than just skimming through a bunch of text. It keeps it on your website longer. And that's important for SEO because Google gives brownie points for people staying on your site longer. They're not bouncing, they're going to your website and then bouncing away. You get brownie points from them for having people stay. The longer they stay, the more they're interested, obviously, the more relevant your site has been to the search they performed in their tool in Google. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
great for that too.
So the longer that they're staying on watching video, does that also improve your ranking in search engine?
It does. It's
Oh, okay.
one of the elements in their Google's algorithms is how
Wow.
long someone stays on the site. Because if they're staying there, obviously they're interested. And if Google presented your site to them as an option or a relevant option to their search that they just performed in Google, and they're staying there longer, then obviously it's relevant, and that's a big deal to
Right. And
Google.
I think the combination of increasing your rankings of the video, right? Because on the website, it'll actually be a YouTube link, and then they're watching it actually on YouTube. Therefore, the ranking goes up there as well on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a couple ways to put a video on a website. Just some website builders have a way of just taking the URL from the video and putting it in. But there's also something called a video embed, which takes a little piece of code and you put that on your website. Google gives more brownie points for the embeds. So the website or the video is actually playing. They don't have to go to YouTube, but when they click on it on your website, they watch it right on your website. But Google likes the
Interesting.
embeds rather than just a plain link.
I see.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, why don't we at this point now